Chapter 17. I'm going for a walk. Want to come? Anne-Marie climbed to her feet and adjusted her bathing suit. Karen sat up and looked around. The ocean was calm, the blue-green waves low and nearly as flat as a lake. Above them, 2 seagulls swooped and climbed, wings outspread, a billowy white cloud for their background. It was the next afternoon, and both girls had thought that a few hours of baking in the sun might help them relax, but Anne-Marie couldn't sit still. Well, are you coming? Anne-Marie asked impatiently. No, think I'll stay here. Karen settled back down on the beach blanket and closed her eyes. Wake me up when you get back, okay? Have you got suntan stuff on? Anne-Marie asked, slipping a light cotton shirt over her bikini top. The sun is pretty strong today. I don't need it. I want to burn for a while. Have a nice walk. Okay, have a nice roast. Anne-Marie headed off in the direction of the Venice Pavilion, walking close to the shore, the water lapping over her feet. Karen looked up at the sky through her sunglasses. The seagulls and the cloud had disappeared. The sun was beginning to feel like a real summer sun. She closed her eyes and saw Renee lying dead on the floor in the kitchen. Then she saw Vince being dragged into the police station. Then she saw Mike staring into the window at Ray J's. If only I could close my eyes and just see nothing, she thought. She had been up nearly the whole night. Renee had kept her up. Poor, dead Renee. Renee, Renee, Renee. Renee probably would enjoy the fact that she was haunting Karen now. What a wicked thing to think, Karen scolded herself. Poor Renee. She drifted into a light, troubled sleep. She was awakened a short time later by a hand on her shoulder. Sitting up with a start, she realized that her arm had fallen asleep. Hey! She looked up, startled to see Vince staring down at her, smiling, the dimples deep in his cheeks. He was wearing faded cutoffs and no shirt. His chest was broad and hairless and tanned. Vince! Sorry, did I scare you? Something about the smile on his face frightened her. He seemed secretly delighted that he had scared her. Vince, I didn't expect... How you doing? His smile faded. You okay? Yeah, I guess. I didn't sleep last night. Every time I closed my eyes. Come take a walk with me, okay? He interrupted, reaching his hands down for her. He took her hands and started to pull her up. He was stronger than Karen realized. He pulled her to her feet so easily she felt frightened again. He's strong enough to kill someone, she thought. She shook her arm, trying to make it stop tingling. Come on, just a short walk, he said, staring into her eyes. Or will your boyfriend mind? He sneered as he said the word boyfriend, making it sound like a term of pure disgust. Okay, she said hesitantly. You don't have to pull my arms off. He looked genuinely embarrassed. Sorry. He turned and started walking down to the water, expecting her to follow. She held back for a few seconds. What does he want? She asked herself. What if he really did kill Renee? He couldn't have, she decided. His toughness is mostly an act, I can tell. She jogged across the sand to catch up with him. Ouch, the sand is really hot, she cried, slipping and catching his arm to hold herself up. It'll be cooler down by the water, he said, staring out at the gently rippling ocean. A sailboat far out on the horizon seemed to be standing still, its sail a small white triangle against the blue sky. She held on to him, the water splashing over their feet and legs as they walked. His arm felt solid, hard. He's like a rock, she thought. I need a rock now. Someone solid. Someone to lean on. Stop being stupid, Karen, she thought, shaking her head. The cold spray felt good on her face. She closed her eyes and saw Renee. The police let you go? She asked, a stupid question. Yeah, sure. He frowned and kicked out at a shell with his bare foot, missing. I saw you there. I know. He started walking a little faster. The beach curved to the right, past the line of brown rocks where she had nearly drowned. She looked back at the beach. It was nearly deserted here. Where is he taking me, she thought, chilled more by her thoughts than by the cold spray off the ocean. Maybe I don't want to walk too far with him. Did they ask you a lot of questions? She asked, looking back at the lifeguard tower, which was now far in the distance. Yeah, a waste of time. My time and theirs. Well, why'd they bring you there? She asked, feeling stupid again. What she really wanted to ask was, did you kill Renee? Whenever something bad happens, they find an excuse to bring me in. My pals, too. They do? Yeah, they do. But the whole thing was a crock. I didn't even know the girl, and I wasn't anywhere near Santa Monica. I was right here in Venice. My buddies backed me up. He stopped at a large piece of driftwood, a long log burned black and made smooth by the sea. He grinned at her, but it wasn't his usual relaxed grin. He looked nervous. I don't look like a killer, do I? Karen laughed, a phony laugh. Of course not. She wondered if she looked as nervous as he did. She could feel the fear begin to tighten her throat. Looking around, she realized they were the only ones in view. Where was everybody? Why had he brought her here? That poor girl, she said, picturing Renee again. She and your boyfriend were, He's not my boyfriend, Karen said, flustered. She knew she sounded like a 10-year-old. Why did Vince always make her feel so weird? She was afraid of him, and she was attracted to him at the same time. He was just so different from anyone she'd ever known. Maybe we should start back, she said, trying not to reveal that she was frightened, but her voice sounded tight and high-pitched. Hey, look at that, he cried, pointing to a splash of water out several dozen yards in the ocean. Look, there it goes again. She followed his gaze and saw a long silver fish leap out of the water. How pretty! Without warning, he pulled her to him and wrapped his arms around her, pressing her against his warm, bare chest. He leaned his head down and kissed her. Uttering a low, startled cry, she began to pull back, but she was overcome by a rush of feeling. He was so warm. His chest felt so hard, so rock-solid hard. He kissed her hungrily. He needed her, and she needed him. She kissed him back. When the kiss was finished, she pushed herself away from him, her hands on his chest. He let her go, dropping his arms to his sides. Vince, what are we doing? He grinned, the deep dimples making him look so devilish. Karen felt terribly confused. She thought about Jerry, so good-looking, so sensitive, so caring, so nice. She stared at Vince, his short, spiky hair, the diamond stud in his ear, the bold black tattoo in his hand. How could she like two boys who were so totally different? Vince moved toward her, about to pull her into his arms again, but Karen raised her hands as if to shield herself from him. No, I don't think so. He stopped. He looked surprised. I'm feeling a little mixed up, she said, embarrassed. You have great eyes, he said. I think I just want to go back to my blanket now. He started to protest, but quickly relented. Okay. He started to lead the way. No, she didn't follow. By myself. I'd just like to walk by myself for a while, try to figure things out, or something. He shrugged. Tough times, huh? She couldn't decide if he was sincere or if he was making fun of her. Listen, I'll see you, okay? Yeah, okay. He stood and watched her hurry off. She started jogging across the sand, her heart pounding. She turned back once and saw that he hadn't moved from the spot near the driftwood. He waved, and she waved back and kept jogging. It felt good to run, the warm sand so soft under her bare feet, the sun on her face, the air so warm and fresh. If only she could run and run and run and not stop to think. She saw her blanket up on the beach. Anne-Marie wasn't back yet. Karen decided to keep going. She jogged for another 20 minutes or so until she was breathing hard, bathed in perspiration, her legs aching. Where was Anne-Marie? Karen hoped she would run into her heading back. Maybe she had gone up to the boardwalk. Karen took several deep breaths and began walking back to the blanket. The slower speed allowed her thoughts to catch up with her. She relived the kiss with Vince. That made her think of Friday night in Malibu, kissing Jerry in the shadow of that abandoned beach house, with Renee looking on. Was that only 3 nights before? It seemed like a lifetime. It was a lifetime, for Renee. She dropped down on a beach blanket. Where was Anne-Marie? Karen looked up and down the beach but didn't see her. She reached into her bag and pulled out the plastic bottle of suntan lotion. A folded-up slip of white paper fell onto the blanket. Curious, she put down the suntan lotion and picked up the paper, unfolding it quickly. The typewritten words jumped out at her as they burned themselves into her eyes. The same message was typed over and over again, all in capital letters, without any punctuation. Stay away from Jerry, stay away from Jerry, stay away from Jerry, stay away from Jerry. Disgusted, Karen crumpled up the sheet of paper and tossed it down on the beach blanket. Who could have put that in her beach bag? She picked up the bottle of suntan lotion, squeezed a white blob of it onto her shoulder, and started to massage it in. The sudden stab of pain was so sharp, so overwhelming, that at first she didn't recognize it as pain. Her shoulder, her hand, they were burning, burning. I'm on fire, she thought. What were those hideous shrieks she heard? Grabbing her shoulder in agony, Karen was in so much pain, she didn't realize that it was she who was screaming at the top of her lungs. Chapter 18. Dr. Martinez put a hand on Karen's other shoulder and led her out of the examining room. How does it feel now? He smiled in that reassuring way that all doctors have, a closed-mouthed smile beneath his black mustache. It aches a little, Karen said, disappointed that the pain hadn't gone completely away. It will continue to ache as it heals, the doctor said, nodding at a passing nurse. Her rubber heels squeaked down the long hospital corridor. You were very lucky. Lucky? Karen rolled her eyes. Well, you are lucky you only spread the cream on the one shoulder. If you had rubbed it over a larger portion of her body, the burn... He was interrupted by a young black man in a starched green lab coat who appeared from around the corner, a clipboard in his hands. Lab report, he said brusquely, shoving the clipboard into Dr. Martinez's hands. Martinez frowned in concentration as he glanced over the top sheet. This is the analysis of what was in your suntan lotion bottle, he told Karen, still reading. Karen had a stab of pain in her hand. She wanted to scratch it, but it was heavily bandaged. The palm had been pretty badly burned. Any of your friends into chemistry? Dr. Martinez asked, handing the clipboard back to the lab assistant. He disappeared as quickly and as silently as he had arrived. No, I don't think so, Karen replied, confused. Well, somebody managed to mix a pretty good solution of hydrochloric acid into your lotion. Acid? Yep. Do you know of anyone who might want to play a really cruel trick on you? A deadly trick? Deadly. The word made Karen shudder. Who had done it? Who was there on the beach with her? Only Anne-Marie and Vince. Could it have been done in the store by some crazy person? Or at the factory? Karen suggested hopefully. Please don't let it be someone I know. Someone I like. Well, that's the first thing I would have said, Dr. Martinez said, walking her slowly down a long white-walled corridor. But the bottle is 2/3 empty. You mean? I mean, you've used it before, right? You've been using the lotion with no problem up to now. Yeah, that's right, Karen said, a sinking feeling in her stomach. I've been using it all month. So someone tampered with it recently, Dr. Martinez suggested. Someone added the hydrochloric acid very recently. But who would do that to me? Karen blurted out, her bandaged shoulder starting to burn and throb. I can't answer that, he said. I think we have no choice but to call the police. The police? Karen's mind flashed back to Detective Franklin's office, to the endless questions, repeated over and over. No, please. If we don't inform the police, we at least have to inform your parents. You're still a minor, and... But my parents are away, Karen said. It was only half a lie. They're out of the country. I'm sort of on my own until they get back. They were interrupted by a call for Dr. Martinez on the loudspeaker. I've got to check on that, he said, pulling back the sleeve of his white coat to glance at his watch. Stay right here, okay? We've got to settle this. Don't move. I'll be right back. He took off in a fast walk around the corner. As soon as he was out of sight, Karen headed to the front reception area. I'm getting out of here, she told herself. She hated hospitals. The sterile look of them, the disgusting medicinal smells, the sick people walking the halls. She didn't want her mother to know about this. Mrs. Mandel would force Karen to come home, and she would find out that Karen had lied about her dad staying with them in Venice. No way. And she certainly didn't want to see that police detective with his accusing blue eyes again either. Hey, Karen, wait! She was past the reception desk, heading to the front doors. Karen! She kept going. She just wanted to get away. A hand grabbed her shoulder. She spun around, expecting a confrontation with Dr. Martinez. Vince! She cried. I didn't know you were still here. I didn't think you'd wait. He looked embarrassed. Yeah, well, I wanted to see how you were. I'm okay, thanks to you, she said, giving him a warm smile. If he hadn't pulled her off the beach, gotten her onto the back of his motorcycle, and bombed off to the hospital at the speed of light, her burns might have been a lot more serious. What was it? The way he asked the question made her suspicious. Had he done it? Switched bottles, maybe? No, of course not. Don't get totally paranoid, she scolded herself. You can't start suspecting every single person you know. This boy came to your rescue. He wouldn't have done that if he had been the one trying to hurt you, would he? She thought about the typewritten note with its repeated warning. What had she done with that note? Left it on the sand, probably. Someone was getting serious about keeping her from Jerry. Was it the same person who had murdered Renee? Well? Oh, sorry. Karen was so lost in her own thoughts, she'd forgotten that Vince had asked her a question. I don't know. Something wrong with the suntan lotion, she said. She tried to shrug, but it sent a stab of pain down from her shoulder. They're still testing it. What did the doctor say? Vince asked. Just that it'll heal. I have to change the bandages every day, keep it wrapped up, keep it out of the sun. There goes my perfect tan. I guess you won't be interested in me anymore, she joked, giving him a sly smile. Who's interested? He smiled back, revealing his dimples. How can I be interested in him? Karen thought. He's not my type at all. My mom would have a fit if she knew I was hanging out with a gang leader. Vince's tattoo would probably give her the cold shakes for a month. I can go swimming in a few days if I wear a wetsuit, she said. So I guess it's not too bad. Want a lift home? She suddenly felt extremely weary. The adrenaline rush from all the pain, all the terror was wearing off. Yeah, that would be nice. He drove almost carefully on the way to her apartment, only running a few lights and riding on the wrong side of the road for only a few blocks. She guessed he was being careful because of her hand and shoulder. She leaned forward as he drove the motorcycle through the late afternoon traffic, holding onto him with her one good hand, pressing her face against the back of his leather jacket. He's someone to lean on, she thought. He's so solid, and he smells so good. She closed her eyes, hoping it might make the trip go faster, or last forever. At this point, she didn't care which. With her eyes closed, she pictured Renee, dead on the kitchen floor. Poor dead Renee. Go away, Renee. Please, go away. And then she pictured Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie, where were you when I was burned? Anne-Marie. Karen opened her eyes, but Anne-Marie's face stayed in her mind. A cold feeling spread over her body, and she knew it wasn't just from the rush of wind on her as they sped through the narrow Venice streets. Anne-Marie had said she was going for a walk, but then never returned. Anne-Marie had shared the blanket with her. Never mind that. Anne-Marie had shared the apartment with her. Anne-Marie could have tampered with the suntan lotion at any time. As Karen approached the apartment, the case against Anne-Marie grew in her mind. Where had Anne-Marie been spending her time anyway? Karen had seen so little of her since she'd arrived. When Karen got the threatening call, Anne-Marie had been out. And then, the can of spray paint in Anne-Marie's dresser drawer, the jellyfish in the bed. It would be easier for Anne-Marie to put them there than anyone else. She had a key to the apartment after all. Suddenly, Karen was remembering back before Anne-Marie moved east. She was remembering the jealous rages, always over one boy or another. Anne-Marie had always been jealous of Karen. But was she jealous enough now to hurt Karen? Was she so desperate to have Jerry for herself? It didn't make any sense, did it? Vince screeched the motorcycle to a halt, almost sending Karen flying over the handlebars. Whoa, he said, climbing off quickly. Sorry. Karen climbed off, her shoulder aching, and looked up at the apartment house. Home at last. But who was that running out the front door? It was Mike. Mike? Yes, without a doubt, it was Mike. Mike saw her, then immediately turned his face away, leaped over the low hedge, and took off, running at top speed. That's odd, Karen thought. What on earth was Mike doing here, and why was he leaving in such a hurry? Confused, she turned back to Vince, who was standing awkwardly with his large hands stuffed in his jeans pockets. Thanks, Vince, for everything. Should I come in? No, I'll be okay. She started up the concrete stairs. Thanks again. You were great. She turned back to the entranceway to the building. He was still standing there by his motorcycle, watching her, the golden afternoon sun on his face. She gave him a weary wave and walked inside. The spray-painted wall hadn't been cleaned, even though the landlord had promised to take care of it. She sighed loudly as she passed it. I just want to get into bed, she thought. She turned the key, pushed open the door, and stepped into the living room. What was that behind the armchair? It was a pair of feet. Anne-Marie's feet, lying on the floor. Anne-Marie? Why was she lying face down on the floor? Chapter 19. Karen's breath caught in her throat. She could feel the blood rushing to her head. Dizzy, she grabbed onto the side of the doorway. No, 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 she thought, and the picture of Renee haunted her once again. Anne-Marie? Anne-Marie stood up quickly. Oh, hi. Oh, thank goodness. Karen, what's the matter? Anne-Marie's face filled with concern. Leaning on the chair back, she pulled herself to her feet. Your shoulder? What happened? Anne-Marie, you just gave me such a scare. Huh? I saw you lying on the floor and I thought, oh no, I'm so sorry, Karen. I was just, my pendant, the chain broke. It fell behind a chair and I was picking it up. I didn't hear you come in. I was just... Why did she look so embarrassed? Her normally pale skin was nearly scarlet. Your shoulder? What's with the bandage? Look at your hand. What did you do to yourself? I got burned, Karen said, her suspicions about her friend coming back to her now that she realized Anne-Marie was okay. Sunburned? No, burned. Where were you anyway, Anne-Marie? I went for a walk, a long walk. I met some people, and then when I got back, you were gone. She walked over to Karen and took Karen's bag for her. I never dreamed you were hurt or anything. Where did you go? Come, sit down. Tell me what happened. Want a Coke or anything? Anne-Marie walked into the attached kitchen and pulled open the refrigerator door, burying her head inside it. Like an ostrich trying to escape, Karen thought. Anne-Marie, come back. We have to talk. I just saw Mike outside. Huh? She slammed the refrigerator door shut and spun around. I saw Mike. Was he here? Okay, Anne-Marie said quietly, coming back into the room and dropping down onto the chair across from Karen. Her green eyes burned into Karen's. You had to find out sooner or later, I suppose? Karen was totally confused now. Find out about... About Mike and me, Anne-Marie said, sighing. We've been seeing each other. You and Mike? Karen's voice slid up to where only dogs could hear it. I was worried you wouldn't approve. I didn't know if you were still interested in him or not. I felt so guilty sneaking around with him, but I just didn't want to confront you about it. I guess I should have said something right away. You mean that's where you've been all the time? With Mike? Anne-Marie nodded her head guiltily, her face still flushed. Karen felt like laughing out loud, and so she did. Anne-Marie's mouth dropped open in bewilderment. What's so funny? Karen wanted to tell her, but she was laughing too hard. Here she was, suspecting her friend of the most hideous things, wondering why Anne-Marie always looked so uncomfortable, so guilty, and all she was doing was seeing Mike. Karen laughed until tears rolled down her cheeks. Finally, gasping for breath, she forced herself to stop. Does this mean you don't care if I see Mike? Anne-Marie asked, which started Karen laughing all over again. Stop me, please, I'm hysterical, Karen exclaimed, ignoring the pain in her shoulder and lying down on the white shag rug and staring up at the ceiling, tears of laughter running down the sides of her face. I'm hysterical. I don't get it, Anne-Marie said. She started laughing too. What are we laughing about? I don't know, but it's better than what's been going on here up till now, Karen said. The phone rang, immediately jarring them out of their laughter. Karen sat up, wiping her cheeks with her hands. The phone continued to ring. She stared at it, considering not picking it up. But what if it's Daddy, she thought, or Jerry, or Vince. Jerry or Vince? She climbed to her feet, walked over to the table, and picked up the receiver. Hello? Hello, is this Karen? Yes, it is, she said wearily, trying to remember where she had heard the girl's voice before. Who's this? This is Jerry's sister. I don't know who you really are, Karen angrily interrupted, but I know you're not Jerry's sister. The girl at the other end started to say something, but Karen slammed down the receiver. When was the horror going to stop, she wondered, feeling her arm throb. When were the threats going to stop? She slumped back to the floor and closed her eyes. She no longer felt like laughing. Her shoulder hurt. Someone had tried to kill her, she realized. Someone had tried to burn her to death. No, she didn't feel like laughing. Now she just felt very tired and very scared.